When a function is called, for example, this function 1 here, when it's called, it is being pushed to this tag during execution. And immediately it is done executing, it will be popped and control will be returned to the global frame. So let's visualize it so we can see what really is going on. Okay, so I've got the tool here. So in this tool, let's type this function and then try to visualize the process, what really is going on under the hood. So we have a function 1. So this function contains a variable. You see a is equal to 10. It simply returns a. So let's visualize the execution. Okay, so now we can see here we have as you can see here we have just a single frame, which is the global frame, and this frame here, primary frame of every JavaScript code or every JavaScript environment. So in this frame we have a single function named 1, and this here is what the function is supposed to do. It's supposed to assign the value of 10 to the variable a and simply return it. So okay, we did not call this function, so let's call it so we can be able to execute this script. Now let's visualize it once more. So as you can see, this script here simply has 4 steps, moving from step 1 to step 4, and this green arrow here is the line that has just been executed, while the red arrow here symbolizing the next line to be executed. So that is the next line to execute. So let's now click on the next button and see what happens. So moving to the next line, we have now, once we click the next button, a local frame for this function 1 is created, and this time around, once the function is put to the stack, a local frame for this function will be created where all the function and its local variables, the variables created inside of the function, will be available, and this is where the function will execute before passing back control to the global frame. In this case, the variable a is created, but the value 1 is not yet assigned to that variable. So moving on, we have the value of a assigned, the value of 10 assigned to the variable a. And what happens next? The return statement is encountered, and what is returning is the variable a, which has the value of 10. And this variable a here can only be accessed in this function if declared with the const or the let keyword. So the return value here is 10 because this function is simply returning the variable a with the value of 10. So moving on, next, the function has finished execution, and now it will pass control back to the global frame. Now the local frame for that function will be destroyed and control will be passed back to the global frame with the value of 10. Now the script will finish execution and the function will be popped from the stack. Now, as you can see, look at how this process is visualized. Now a local frame is created for this one function so that the function can be executed in this frame before passing control back to. So that is how functions are being executed. Whenever each function is called, a local environment or a local frame is created for that function. so that the function can safely execute before passing control to the global. And whenever before that environment is created, the function is being pushed to the core stack. Once it is pushed to the core stack for the execution to begin, a local environment for that function will be created. As simple as it is, it's very important for us to understand what's really going on under the hood. Okay, so moving on. So let's assume we have three functions: 1, 2, and 3. So function 1 calls function 2, function 2 calls function 3, and function 3 traces of the execution, traces the core stack. So what really is happening when function 1 is called, encounters function 2, and then function 2 is called, function 2 also encounters function 3. What function 3 does is to trace this core stack. So immediately function 1 is called, it is being pushed to the stack. Now it encounters function 2, function 2 is also pushed to the stack. Function 2 now encounters function 3. Now function 3 is also pushed to the stack. So the first function to execute now is function 3. Once it's finished execution, it's being popped to the stack. You know, the stack is a LIFO data structure. It's the last in, first out data structure. So the last function here, function 3, it will trace the core stack and it will be popped from the core stack. Now, once it is popped, it will return control to function 2. Function 2 will execute safely, also be popped from the core stack. Now this time around, function 2 will return control to function 1. Function 1 will execute safely, and it will also be popped from the core stack, and control will be returned to the global frame where code execution will be completed. Okay, so what exactly is happening? Let's try to visualize it as well and see what is happening in that. Let's see how all these functions have their local frame and how they are safely executed. So let's get into that and visualize it. Okay, so here we have function 2, and inside of function 2 we simply call function 3. Inside of function 1 we call function 2. Here is our function 3. Inside of this function 3 we will not trace the console, we will simply log final function. So now finally we call function 1 to see what is going on. So let's visualize this execution here. Okay, so in our global frame, which is our global context, we have three functions: function 1, function 2, and function 3, as we can see. Now, executing function 3, we have our final function logged here. So let's we have this script has 7 steps to be executed. So on clicking, now clicking the next button. Next, our function 1 is being called first. As you can see, the line that just executed is function 1. So that's the first function to execute. Now, when function 1 tries to execute, to encounter function 2. Now, when it encounters function 2 will also push to the stack. When it executes function 1, it will push to the stack. When it tries to execute, encounter function 2, which will also be pushed to the stack, and its local frame will be created. Now when function 2 tries to execute, it will encounter function 3. This time around, function 3 will be put to the stack and its local frame will be created for self-execution. Now moving on, function 3 doesn't have a return value, rather it logs to the console final function, which is the string. So moving on, it logs final function. Look at what is happening. Now here, when we execute function 3 here, look in this box here, what shows up? Final function. Now function 3 is being executed. So what happens next? It will return control to function 2. Now look at what is happening. Now the local frame for function 3 is being destroyed and control is being returned to function 2. Now function 2 will execute safely and return control to function 1. Now let's moving on. Function 2 has finished execution and control is being returned to function 1. Now function 1 will execute safely and return control to the global frame, which is the global execution context. Moving on, function 1 is done executing and control is being returned to the global frame. Now you can still see this final function being logged in console because function 3 executed, returned control to function 2, safely executed, it stayed safely and returned control to function 1, which executed and returned control to the global frame. So in each case, each of these functions was being pushed to the stack, and after execution, it will be popped from the stack and control will be returned to its parent function environment. In this case, the parent function 3 is function 2. After function 2 finishes execution, the control will be returned to function 1 and function 2 will be popped from the stack. So that is simply how the JavaScript execution context works, and that is how functions are being called, executed in order. I hope we all enjoyed this video and see you next time.